Mhm.
And we all kind of said they're playing the worst teams possible, but May and June they've kind of fallen off from that, but they still have a very good offense and pitching staff. So the Rays are still a World Series favorite just based on that, but they have started to fade a little bit, as we expected.
I think they started to fade a lot a bit. You couldn't. There's no way they could have held up what they were doing at the beginning of the season.
No, I mean they're not.
But
This was the argument I had.
they have a lot of holes. They have a
Some
lot.
people were calling them a great team at the end of April, and I was like, that they're not a great team. They could now, at this point, I'll say, because of the state of the rest of the East, I think they're still the favorite to win the division now. I think they've made enough of a case there, but
So to
I
answer,
don't.
yeah, to answer your question, I think I'll go under. I'm going to take the Braves to make
Yeah.
the World Series,
Right.
and I think Tampa Bay can be clipped by any of the AL teams that are in contention.
I'm with you. I feel the same way. Tampa, by the way, in June I'm looking at their offense. Their offense is now seventh, tied for seventh in runs scored. Which again, it's a good team, but it's not a great team as they were being touted. And pitching wise in June, let's see this. They have the sixth best ERA. So again, a good team. Now let's look at May, which is also, since that very easy schedule in April. In May, they had have to scroll. That's never a good sign. The 17th best ERA for pitching, and for hitting, they were seventh. So, I mean, they've kind of become a top 10 offense since April, not a top 1 offense, and pitching staff. They're on the upswing again, but you probably are like, maybe they're a top 5 pitching staff, not a top pitching staff.
Yeah.
And that makes a difference when playoff time comes. So I don't think that I agree with you. The Braves are a bigger juggernaut to me than the Rays, and the AL is a better league to me than the NL. So for both of those reasons, I think the Rays have a much bigger chance of not making it to the World Series than the Braves.
I agree. Yeah. And like I said, I can see them being clipped by, the AL is a little topsy-turvy right now, but I think wherever it ends up, those teams at the end, I mean, the good teams always kind of rise, right? The deadline's a month away. I think those teams who are there, they can clip the Tampa Bay Rays. They can clip them.
So we get to that second tier here. There's like a distinct second tier to me right now in baseball, and a lot of them, all of them, are pretty much teams we didn't expect. And I'm going to amend that. It's not a second tier. I'm not talking about the second best teams. There's another tier we need to review, and it's the upset teams. And those upset teams, we talked about the Rangers earlier. Thought they could have a turnaround season for sure. They were already better than the 90-something losses they had last year, but now they're in first place and have the third best record in the AL. And also in the AL, stick to that, are the Orioles, who have the second best record. The only reason they're not leading their division is because Tampa's in it. What do you think of the Orioles and Rangers? I mean, are these World Series potential teams?
I think the Rangers are legit. The Orioles are a nice story, but I don't think they're legit.
I kind of feel the opposite.
Nah. Rangers are in first place right now, and I mean they're the best offense in baseball. And imagine if you put Jacob deGrom on that team. Imagine if they had a healthy deGrom.
Yeah, for sure the deGrom. Well, here let's look a little deeper into the Rangers. They were the team I think I was most intrigued with when I kind of looked into this. In April, behind the Rays were the Rangers. They had the second most runs in MLB in April. In pitching in April, they were 10th in ERA. And these are, it's lazy to a degree, but I'm sorry, that was in May, not April. In June, though, what would you guess? So pitching wise, what would you guess pitching wise the Rangers ERA has been ranking wise in June?
Collectively?
Yeah, like where would you think they rank in all of MLB and ERA?
Maybe middle of the road.
Yeah, they're 15th in MLB, and hitting wise. Now remember, they had a historically good start to they were on pace to have the most runs ever. They were second in April, like I said, and then if we go to May, they were second. So April and May, I mean, this was the most consistent hitting in baseball. In June, they are sixth, so a little bit of a fall off. They're falling off a little bit. I mean, but they don't need to be historically good. They're flirting with a 100 win pace. This is my main purpose, though, with the Rangers. It's not to be down on them. I never have been a big believer in their pitchers. I do think Eovaldi's also going to get hurt. They didn't really have any injuries besides DeGrom, who we knew was going to get hurt. I think the Orioles are, first of all, the better put together team. That offense can play. They only have upside with Henderson and Roth and Adley there. The bullpen's fantastic in Baltimore, which you can't say about Texas. And furthermore, they're going to have more metal because the Orioles are playing in the hardest division in baseball, and they are playing the hardest teams 56 times this season. And the Astros are in the West. I mean, the Astros being in the West is what would scare me the most, because not only is Tampa easier to overcome, but the Astros could still take the West. And if you're talking about Texas now without DeGrom in a best of three, or even in an ALDS against whoever comes out of it, I'm going to trust the Orioles more to make a run than I am if they're both wild cards. And that's my fear. If Texas is a wild card, you're talking about a play-in, just like the Orioles. Orioles don't exactly have an ace either, but they've got a bullpen that can shorten games a lot. I'm a little worried about Texas if Houston goes on a run. And I haven't talked about Houston yet. We'll wait for Henry to get back to. I haven't talked about Houston yet, but here's my thoughts on Houston. First of all, never in their run have they won back-to-back World Series. They won last year, obviously. They did make back-to-back World Series the last 2 years. But Houston, to me, is an ALCS caliber team. It's not meant to throw shade. That's still a top 2 team in the AL, top 4. But this is a year where so far they look a little more like 2018 when they lost to ALCS, a little more like 2020 when they were under 500 in the regular season, but then became Houston in the playoffs and didn't make the World Series anyway. I think they've fallen off a little. They lost Verlander. They've lost Garcia for the season. Urquidy's been hurt. He's on the 60-day IL. Yordan Alvarez has been hurt. Altuve was hurt. They're going through it a little bit. They've got some injuries.
Camera fell, everything.
Oh, yeah, we're having a rough 24 hours of technology.
Tell me about it. Sorry.
What I was saying is that Texas worries me for 2 reasons. One is that I think the Orioles are a better put together playoff team. Because they've got a phenomenal bullpen and Texas doesn't. Neither has a great rotation to me. They both have really good offenses. But my main reason is I think Houston can pass Texas. We haven't seen the best of Houston. They've been banged up. I just went through all their injuries.
Yeah.
Aaron adding McCullers, but he's always out. But I mean, they already lost Verlander. Garcia's out for the season. Urquidy's been on the 60-day IL. Altuve was out for the beginning of the season. Alvarez is hurt.
Isn't it great?
What's that?
Isn't it great?
Yeah, don't get me wrong, I love it, but I think Houston's going to go on a run. They're only 5 back. That's not insurmountable. And if you want to phrase it as Texas and Baltimore are both wild card teams that have to play a best of 3, I like Baltimore's chances better. So
I just can't see Baltimore beating any of those AL teams. I can't.
Why? Let's think about it though. Say that the Rays finish with the best record, right? They're going to get a bye. And then say Houston, because they're just annoying like this, finishes by winning the West. They're going to get the second bye, even if the AL East team has a better wild card record. So they're going to get a bye. Now you're looking at Baltimore playing the Central winner as the top wild card, right? Am I doing that?
Well,
No.
If
Central
Texas
winner would play the worst wild card.
If Texas holds off, you can have a situation where Baltimore may play Houston.
Yes, this is how I see it playing out. I think Houston's going to still win the West. I guess that's what I'm getting at. Mm-hmm. And if that happens, actually, Baltimore is going to play Texas head to head in a best of 3, because the AL Central winner is going to play the worst wild card, which in this scenario is going to be either Toronto, New York, or LA.
I would watch that.
So I guess what would you take? Orioles versus Texas head straight up,
I would take Texas,
even with Baltimore having a home field advantage.
even with, I mean, it's the same ballpark essentially.
All right, well, I mean that's where we differ. I think Baltimore is a better team than Texas right now, and they have a better record by a game and a half for what it's worth. Playing in the AL East, which is a harder division. But we'll see. I mean, they're 33 run differential. Texas is 147 run differential. So that is a huge point for you, Henry.
Yeah, a big.
Baltimore does not win big.
I mean, Mullins is out too. He's on a DL, I believe.
Mullins and Mountcastle both
Yeah.
hurt. So that's kind of where that might be those might be the two most intriguing teams to me in the AL. I don't know where they're going to finish, and it wouldn't surprise me if they went on a playoff run, and also wouldn't surprise me if they didn't win a playoff game.
Not at all.
So Houston, you can never count out. They've been very banged up. They've lost 7 of 10, and there's no guarantee to me. I was saying this too. They've made the World Series the last 2 years, but they have never won it back-to-back years. They won it last year. They look a little more 2018, 2020 to me than their World Series teams. I think they're an ALCS caliber team instead of a World Series caliber team this year.
The O's?
The Astros.
Oh, I mean, look, until they don't do it, you have to kind of put them there, right?
I automatically put them in the ALCS.
I mean,
they've earned that.
Look, they've earned that. They've earned no matter what. You got to give that to them, because when the shit hits the fan, Dusty Baker buckles them down, and they've been there the last 3-4 years. I mean, it's what it is.
Yeah, and they've made the World Series 22, 21, 19, and 17. Now, 17, 19, we could say what we want about it, but
yeah,
even since since it's been impossible basically to cheat in the way they were, they've still made the World Series 2 out of 3 years. So they're the favorites. I just have a feeling that they can be bested this year because they've just been very banged up. I don't know if it's going to change, but
I just hope if it happens by us.
Sure, and that's not going to happen. So I wouldn't get my hopes too far up. And we'll switch back to the AL because it's very interesting, the potential playoff matchups. But let's go to the NL with that same kind of ilk, those same teams that we didn't expect, and that's the Marlins, the Reds, and the Diamondbacks. Reds I don't take too seriously. There's a good chance they're not even going to make the playoffs, but they're a good story with some good youth, and they're headed in the right track. You agree with that?
I agree with that.
The Marlins maybe are the most confusing baseball team in all of the majors because I don't know why they're good. They have a negative 15 run differential. They're in the NL East, which is not as bad as the NL Central. They're 11 over 500, which again, first half, they could very well fall off, not even make the playoffs. But at this point, we've got a half season under our belts, and they're 11 over. That's not chump change. What do you make of the Marlins? Is this a playoff team?
No.
Okay.
I think it's a fun story. I think it's a cute story, but I can't take them serious.
Let's put it a different way. If the Marlins don't make the playoffs, I assume you have at least 2 teams in the West who are going to win wild cards.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what we thought from the beginning.
Yeah, like the Dodgers to me are a lock to make the playoffs.
I think we thought
they probably win the division if we're being honest.
We thought that with the AL East in the American League and the AL West and then National League, we thought that the wild card teams would be coming from there.
Yeah. The Giants have been a surprise, but they're not that big of a surprise to me because they were fantastic in 2021. So they're kind of doing that little magic stuff again in 2023. They're getting Conforto's there. He's been great. Yastrzemski's having a solid year. Their entire outfield pretty much is producing. Lamont Wade has turned into Juan Soto with on-base percentage. Thairo Estrada is having a fantastic year. He's cooled off recently, but he's been great. They're getting that year again where they're getting production from everywhere. But really, it's the Diamondbacks we have to discuss in the West, because in my mind, the Dodgers and either the Giants or Padres, they're both going to make the playoffs. Maybe all 3 still. I haven't given up on the Padres. Are the Diamondbacks going to make the playoffs?
It's really hard. It's hard for me to give up on the Padres.
Yeah.
But I mean, at some point I have to, because no matter how much talent they have, they just can't put that shit together, man. This is 3
It's
straight years now.
it's tough. They have so much talent on that roster,
There's
and
no
you're right, it
reason.
just doesn't mix.
There's no reason that there's no reason that they're playing the way they're playing. It's they have the best guys that do everything the best individually.
And what makes it worse is they have a positive run differential, which is plus 31, is fifth in the NL. Sixth, sorry, one behind the Cubs.
And
So
fourth
it's
in their
not
own
like
division.
yeah, right, and fourth in their own division, but they don't have a bad run differential. They're definitely playing below those means, and we saw what happens when they got hot last year when they made the NLCS run.
Yeah.
So they're tough. It's tough to stomach the fact that they're 37 and 41 right now and
It's,
can't score runs with that offense.
it's that thing that you get Padre fatigue, right? They're supposed to be good for so many years now, and you kind of get tired of it. They have all the best players. But if they do it, are we really surprised? Like, no, that they're supposed to do
No,
that.
yeah, I'm
They're
not.
spending all this fucking money. They're trading for everybody. They're signing everyone. They're supposed to be winning.
Now, Carlos and Jacob are both in right now. Carlos bringing up a pretty good point, which is that the Marlins have that record in part because the Mets have been so bad. Just so you guys both know, we're going to get to the Mets in a second because we have another tier of teams we have to discuss. But to finish up this thought,
What is their
Henry,
record? What's their record head to head against the Mets?
the Marlins against the Mets,
Yeah.
I'll pull it up. I don't think it's very favorable for the Mets. The Marlins are just so strange. And by the way, last I checked, they were beating the snot out of the Red Sox at Fenway too.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, let's check. Yeah, they're up 6-1 in the seventh. Mets, by the way, up 7-0 on the Brewers right now. Intriguing. All right, so I'm going through the Marlins schedule right now.
Actually, the Marlins have won 2 of 6, 8, 9 games against the Mets.
So they're 2-7.
And 2 and 7.
Oh, that does surprise me. All right, so the Mets own them.
Yeah.
To finish up my thought, though, we know the Braves are going to make the playoffs. We know someone's going to win the Central. Who are your other 4 wildcard teams in the NL? If we are discounting, you're discounting the Marlins. I'm not sold, but I kind of lean with you. Who are your other 4 playoff teams?
It's 6 in total, right?
Yeah. So we've got Braves and
So
whoever wins the Central doesn't matter. Is a
I have
gimme.
I have Braves, Brewers.
Mhm.
My preseason prediction was the Phillies, I think, to get a spot.
Which there's 3 over now, so they're
Right.
on the right track.
They're 3 over, and how far are they from the wild card? I mean,
They
they're only
would
3 games
be,
back from the wild card.
yeah. So it's
I'm
not a
gonna
terrible.
I'm gonna stick with that. I'm gonna stick with the Braves, the Brewers, the Phillies, and I guess by default 3 NL West teams.
Yeah, 3 of the 4. Okay.
So you're
I kind of lean with you. The Phillies are another team like the Padres. I don't think they're as talented as the Padres, but they are a team you expect to be in the wild card hunt. And I do think at least 3. I think 3 NL West teams do make the playoffs in some order. Do you think the Diamondbacks are one of those teams?
It's funny you read my mind. I was just about to say I can see a situation where the Diamondbacks fall behind those 3 teams and don't even make the playoffs.
Here's the thing here's your death sentence if you're the Diamondbacks. They're only 3 games from falling into 3rd place
Right.
in the NL West. So Giants, Dodgers, we'll say the Brewers because we both agree on that. Braves, it's 4 playoff teams. Now you're talking 2 teams have to jump them. The Phillies, as we mentioned, are basically 6 behind them right now with half a season to go. You've got the Padres and then you've got the Mets and the Marlins.
I was so high on the Mets entering this season, man. And right now they are 8.5 back of a wild card spot.
A perfect segue, because now I wanted to discuss the teams who have been the most disappointing. And you cannot have, I'm sorry, Jacob, and I'm sorry, Carlos, but I'm also sure you already know this. You cannot have a $400 million payroll and be 8 games under 500 in 4th place and not be the most disappointed. They're the most disappointing team in baseball.
I don't disagree. I was gonna say maybe the Dodgers, but at the very least, the Dodgers have a winning record.
Dodgers are 9 over in the
They're
playoff
9-over,
spot right
yeah.
now.
Yeah.
So it's not them. The Mets are 8 under. They're
think-
16 games behind the Braves.
I don't
We
think
thought they would have a divisional race.
I can't disagree. I think it's the Mets. The Mets are the most disappointing club so far in the first half.
By the way, Mets fans, and I don't mean to pile on, I really had the intention of not piling on anyone this entire night. You can appreciate what the Yankees have done the last 30 years, because until the Mets came on board 2 years ago with their new owner, the Yankees were the de facto highest spending team, even though the Dodgers outspent them, I think, a couple of those times in the last decade. And the Yankees never had a season under 500. So it was like teams got joyful they didn't win the World Series, didn't make the World Series, whatever. But they were always a playoff competitor. Even when they didn't make the playoffs, they still won 86 plus games.
Yeah.
They've never had a season like the Mets are having right now. 8 games under 500 halfway through the year, 16 games out of the division. And what did we say? 6 games out of the final playoff spot. And this is an expanded playoff.
You know what's
With
crazy?
16.
To fix the Mets, you just need the guys on the Mets to play better. And I don't see everyone playing better at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I think Steve Cohen can take on an ugly contract and get some prospects.
But they're
But
more than one player away right now.
He can't fix this at the deadline with money. And the Mets would be stupid. I would rather, if I'm a Mets fan, I'd rather lose 90 games this year than give up prospects to try and fix this.
I agree.
Maybe Vientos. He's the only one I can see I might trade it for the right deal. But you have to hang on to Beatty.
Call me crazy. You're gonna call me crazy. Ready?
Yeah.
Trade Pete Alonso.
So this gets to my other point, because the Mets you can do a deep dive into right now. Pete Alonso's the next guy who has to get paid, right? Cohen's already paid McNeil, and he's already paid Beatty. I mean, he's already paid Nimmo, sorry. Their entire rotation, we've discussed this ad nauseum, is going to have to essentially be replaced minus Senga soon. And McGill and Peterson have not proven this year that they are those guys. And a lot of people, Mets fans included, thought those were the guys going into this year. Verlander is old and he's showing it with his health. Scherzer's old and he's showing it with his performance. Carrasco's basically done. It leaves you with Senga. So the rotation is where you're going to probably have to spend money if you're Cohen anyway. The bullpen's been bad. I think there's some upside there because Diaz is out for the year. They've had some relievers who have just had uncharacteristically bad seasons. And the bullpen, like I said, I'm not terribly frightened about having to replace over time. I think that's an easier thing to fill. But the offense, Henry, what you alluded to, that's where you're worried.
Yeah. Because
Nimmo's locked up, McNeil's locked up, Lindor's locked up. You have to make a decision on Alonso, and then you have to have Beatty and Alvarez and probably Mauricio all pan out if you're going to move Vientos. It's a lot. It's a lot to ask.
The problem is he's played like shit since he's been called up, so it kind of hurts a little bit of his draft capital.
Yeah,
I think the kid is amazing. I think he's going to be a star in the league. But when you come up and you play like shit, you know, and some fans will say it's because he wasn't playing every day, you know. But I'm sorry. I'm trading the old guys. I'm trading Pete Alonso. If you want Pete Alonso back, then you just fucking sign him in a year.
Here's my problem.
Trade Starling Marte. You want to hear something? You want to hear a weird stat?
Yeah.
Starling Marte's OPS, I mean, his on-base percentage is 305. That's not 312, right?
Yeah.
That's not bad. Do you know what his slugging is? 337. His slugging is that close to his on-base percentage.
That's bad.
He's doing nothing.
And if you're going to be a speed demon as he is, you got to have higher than that. 312, you're right. It's not bad by MLB standards, but he needs to be in that 340 range if you're going to not have any power.
Yeah, I would just trade as many of those old guys and try to get something back for them. And Pete Alonso, you package him, and I think that brings back something very, very good.
Yeah. My problem with that is the lineup construction. I can actually agree with Carlos here. I think trading McNeil's your better bet because you've got a bunch of
I would
guys.
trade him too.
Yeah, that could be extreme, but they might have to do that at this point. But Alonso,
So wait, it gets better. So I gave you Starling Marte's numbers.
yeah,
Here's Jeff McNeil. His on-base percentage 337. It's really good, right?
yeah.
He's slugging 320. He's actually slugging less than he's getting on base.
Yeah, Alonso, my problem is he's the only guy who's a major power threat.
Yeah.
And they needed more power.
And he's hitting. His slugging is 529. He's doing what he's supposed to do.
Yeah. So in my mind, you have to lock up Alonso, but that might only cause more problems for them because there's even more money committed.
I don't know.
It's tough. It's a tough situation because the pitching and the offense are so they're in bad shape age-wise and financially, which we can say about a different New York team too, kind of also relying on their prospects, but we're not there yet. So yeah, I don't think
trade Alonso. The guys are losing their shit in the comments. I'm telling you, trade Alonso.
I agree with the Mets fan. It's a tough sell though, because he's part of what you need. You need to acquire a guy like that.
You could get if you can get a young controllable starter like Ace.
But then you have no offense.
They don't have offense right now.
That's the pro. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, you can't.
I'd rather roll the dice with a shitload of pitching if I'm not gonna have any offense.
And the other thing too to keep in mind, it's not even a 2-year fix because this offseason for hitters is awful. You got a few pitchers. Yeah, I mean, Ohtani aside, it's awful. It's a really bad winter upcoming for hitters. You got Stroman and a few interesting pitchers, but hitters is awful. And you can't be Steve Cohen in this spot and say, hey, I'm going to rebuild for 3 years. That's the spot they're in. This is what it feels like to have expectations and an owner who spends. It's not always all it's cracked up to be.
You got to have the right people. I know is Billy. I don't think we thought Billy Epler was the right choice from the jump.
No, I never liked Billy. Oh, are you kidding me?
I think
a Cashman disciple.
Look,
the Angels.
A lot of fans are calling for Buck Showalter's head. I'm sorry, Buck Showalter's is a good manager.
So this was asked earlier.
I'll take Buck over fucking Aaron Boone every day, any day, right now, yesterday, tomorrow, any fucking time.
I'd take anyone named Buck over Aaron Boone. So that's not a revelation, but this was asked earlier. Do you think if the Mets don't make the playoffs that Buck Showalter survives it?
I think that's a cheap scapegoat.
I do too.
I think it's a cheap scapegoat, and I think he's owed more than that in the game of baseball. He's not like an up and coming manager or someone who doesn't have,
But he is a guy who gets fired a lot.
What happens when he gets fired?
He goes and rebuilds a different team.
The next team, the team he left wins the next year.
I wouldn't fire Buck. It wouldn't shock me because Cohen has to decide now what type of one.
I get rid of Epler before I get rid of Buck, and if
Epler's good as gone.
Yeah.
There's
and if
no
the new
doubt in my mind.
if the new GM says, "Hey, I want to bring my own manager," then that's a different conversation.
That's a fair point.
But that's what I would do. I get rid of Billy Epler first, and whoever you replace him with, say, "Hey, you do what you want to do with the manager. If you want to hire a new manager, hire a new manager."
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of smoke with Stearns. I don't know if that's a wishful thinking from the Mets. The Stearns from the Brewers.
I mean, it's been the case for how long now? 2-3 years.
Yeah, I mean that obviously should be the guy or a Theo. This might intrigue Theo, but he may also want to be a commissioner. I have no idea.
You know my feeling about Theo. Theo Epstein's the next commissioner of baseball.
Yeah, I know. This would be a situation he would, I think, come out of his little hole for, though. Unlimited payroll, big market, another team that hasn't won in 30-something years. Does
Theo have anything to prove? He's going into the Hall of Fame in the executive.
No, if I'm Theo, I'm just like, I can sleep with women in every single city that I bring a World Series to.
You're young, you're rich, you're well respected. Everything you touch turns to gold. You're going into the Hall of Fame. If you're Theo, the only thing left to do is become the commissioner of baseball.
Yeah.
And that's an easy sell because everyone hates Manfred.
Right.
Especially after the motherfucker says that he realizes it was a mistake not to penalize the Astro players. I know we didn't talk about that. We didn't have a plan to.
Such an idiot. Theo's a long shot. I'll give you that. I think Stearns is their guy. It makes a lot of sense.
I think it is. I think it's.
I think you have to fire Epler because here's the thing: like Cohen now is facing the music because 2021 he came aboard. I think Mets fans were willing to give that 1 year reprieve because the 2020 Mets were so bad. 2022 was a year and they won 100 games. It's not like it was a terrible regular season, but they flamed out in the playoffs for the exact reasons I said they would. And now you have this version of the Mets that's very, very disappointing.
Yeah.
So in my mind, if you're Cohen, you have to come up with something in 2024. You can't just go into a rebuild. This is what happens when you set the expectations he set, like Steinbrenner before him. You got to make something happen. And I never liked the way this Mets team was built long term. And no matter what you say about Scherzer pitching better right now, by the time October comes, that dude's done. And every year that goes by, he's even more done. They're not built well. They're not built to win right now. They weren't ever built to win a World Series in my mind, and it's only getting worse. So they're in a bad spot. It's a bad spot to be in. I know they've got prospects, but it's a bad spot to be in when you have to rely on them with a $400 million payroll.
I'm looking at the list of MLB free agents.
It's bad. Just mention some of those hitters. It's so bad.
It's really bad. Javi Baez has an opt-out, which he's clearly not going to take.
I would rather hit myself with a shoe repeatedly than sign Javi Baez to be my offensive savior.
The prize free agents are Ohtani, Aaron Nola.
Yeah, which he can't hit.
Matt Chapman.
Austin Nola can't even hit. Yeah, Matt Chapman is. He got
he's having a resurgence. He's having a resurgence. Lucas Giolito, which. I mean, you don't even know what he is. Blake Snell, and another one who's, Luis Severino, somebody's going to pay him. He's only 29 years old.
Yeah. There's some more smoke in the chat. I think this is the best thing the Mets can do. And I've talked about some Mets fans. Trade for Soto, if that's an option, which it could be. It's not a guarantee because the Padres have money too, and they traded their entire farm for him. I don't think it's a guarantee he hits free agency, but maybe the Padres want to recoup a little.
If you trade for Soto, you have to be prepared to give him that $400 to $500 million contract.
Yeah. And I think in that case, you can trade a McNeil. You can let Marte, Canha, all of those mid-tier guys go. And maybe you can afford to have an Alonso and a Soto long-term. And then you're all in with that core. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I think Soto's their best
Frankie Lindor needs to hit like he's a fucking $300 million player.
Yeah, Lindor's got to be better. Well, this was a contract. Some Mets fans named Sean, I won't say who, loved that contract, hate everything the Yankees ever do. We said, look out for those hamstrings and that on-base percentage. And Lindor is not even halfway through that contract, and look what's happening.
He's hitting home runs. But he's not a home run guy. Put the ball in play, get your base hits.
Oh.
He's hitting 223. I don't care about home runs if you're hitting 223, and then
low average.
Yeah.
He
leads all. I think he leads all shortstops in home runs, but he's still only slugging 420, 442. I mean.
And I saw I missed out on the Ohtani sweepstakes. I had written a very long post about it like a month ago, including the contract prediction. He's not leaving the West Coast because there's too many options on the West Coast.
I agree.
So Seattle, LA, dark horse, he returns the Angels if they make the playoffs, but I doubt it. Texas is my real dark horse, but you're really looking Seattle, LA, Dodgers.
Yeah. Both LAs.
And,
I mean, I wouldn't put it past Audie Moreno to pay him.
Yeah, I mean, Angels, Rangers, Padres, Mariners, Dodgers, and San Francisco are probably the 6 teams I'd take against the entire field.
But if you're Ohtani, why would you go back to LA?
He's a weird dude. To be honest with you, like I've now read his biography as well. Like I thought it was weird when he came here and didn't take $100+ million. He came here because he wanted to prove himself. That's strange. He chose the Angels because they were family friendly and he liked Mike Trout. That's strange.
My choice was always Seattle, and I'm going to stick with Seattle.
Seattle to me has always made the most sense, even the first time around. But now you got Julio there too, so he still doesn't have to be the guy. He has a very rich Japanese history there.
Although Julio's no longer playing like the guy either.
No, he's not. But sophomore slumps happen. I'm not ready to give up on
No,
Julio.
no, that kid
Young
is
guys.
too talented and too young to give up
Yeah,
on.
another electric guy. Not quite as Ellie De La Cruz electric. He's not as fast, but he's
This
very electric.
goes to show you this game is not easy, man.
No,
These
it's
teams
not.
adjust to you. They get the tape. They adjust. They look at your numbers. This game is not an easy game to play.
No. But to me, the Mariners have the most going. They'll compete. They're in the same division he's familiar with. They have another superstar who can kind of take face of the franchise. Ohtani doesn't necessarily want that.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. Like I said, he's a strain. He wants to be the best for sure. Like he does this whole pitching hitting thing because he wants to be the best player ever. But he doesn't necessarily need the spotlight that comes with it.
I don't know,
It's a
man.
weird
I
paradox.
think he's had that when he was in Japan. You saw how he reacted with it with the World Baseball Classic. I think the kid was fucking born to be in the
Yeah,
spotlight.
I don't think he shies away from big moments. I know I make fun of him a lot for that, like getting killed at Yankee Stadium every time he comes, but I don't think he shies away from big moments. I just don't think he needs the spotlight. Like some guys need, like A-Rod needed some
No, yeah, he
spotlight.
doesn't need it, but he knows. I think he knows that wherever he's going to be the talk of the town.
Yeah, well, that I think he's accepted for sure.
So
And his
if you
$500
want,
million
if he wanted,
contract is going to verify that.
if he wanted to be paired with a guy that could probably outshine him, then you're coming to New York and you're playing with Aaron Judge, and that's not happening.
Right. He's not coming to and the Mets fans could throw. I mean, the Mets could throw 600 million at him. I still don't think he'll come to the Mets. So
I don't think I'm in this way at all.
half season picks for championship series, World Series. We kind of touched on the World Series. We both think the Braves have no reason not to be there. Who do you think they play in the NLCS?
The Braves?
Yeah. And you got to do a little bit of math here, right? Because the Braves will get a bye, and then you have to imagine the NL West winner will get a bye, which we both don't think will be the Diamondbacks.
Vince, we're playing hypotheticals. Just have fun with it, brother. You don't got
Nope. Gotta be as perfect.
you don't gotta do that.
Got it as accurate as possible.
I'm still gonna say the Dodgers.
I'm going to say I like the way the Giants match up with the Dodgers. I really do. And the Dodgers, with all their star power, just don't scare me as much as they should.
They don't, but they always find their way there, right?
To me, it's
granted they always find a way to choke, but
yeah. To me, it's the Braves, Dodgers, Padres, and Giants. And the Dodgers are the smart money to play the Braves.
Wait a minute. Are you doing what I'm doing? You're saying that Arizona's not making the playoffs, like I said?
I think they can make the playoffs. I just don't take that. They have no pitching. Like they have no starters. So I don't take them seriously as a playoff team. They're a fun story. They've got some guys there who are exciting. They've got a lot of speed, which I always appreciate. I don't think they're going to make a noise in the playoffs.
I'm gonna stick with the Giants.
With the Giants or Dodgers?
Sorry, Dodgers. Sorry,
Yeah,
I was looking at the Giants.
Dodgers are smart. I mean, Dodgers Braves would be good for baseball too, as a juggernaut NLCS matchup. I can agree with that. It's boring, but I can agree with it. What about for the NL? I mean, for the AL?
I think we see another rematch. Yankees Astros.
Yankees.
Yeah.
Well, we're about to open a whole can of worms discussing the Yankees specifically, but I don't think the Yankees have an ALCS team. And I'm kind of with you with the Astros. They still scare the hell out of me. I have no reason to think anyone's that much better than them. I don't want to pick Astros Rays. That's just so obvious. Whatever.
You know what it is? I think we both see the Rays as being very beatable.
Yeah. It's just a matter of, are they beatable in the DS or CS for me? Right. I don't think they're going to make the World Series. Would it shock me if they made the CS? No, they have earned that.
Here's my thing. Here's my thing. I think the Yankees, because you have guys that are out. You have big guys that are out hurt, right? And ideally you want your guys to be healthy. And I think if they get Aaron Judge back this year healthy, I think if Giancarlo Stanton finds his dick again, I think if Carlos Rodon ever starts throwing a pitch in a Yankee uniform again, I think
One more rehab start, by the way.
you're talking about a very formidable lineup. You're talking about Cole, Rodon, and you take your pick of either Nestor or Severino. And those guys are pitching against number 3 or 4 of the other team. It's not
Well,
crazy.
let me ask you this, 2 questions in regards to that line of thinking. One is, do you think what happened to the Yankees in the playoffs last year was solely because they faced Astros pitching, or do you think they were a very beatable playoff offense?
No, they're very beatable playoff offense, and they still are.
Okay. Yeah. 2 is, I think we can both concede they're not winning the division. Is that fair to say?
The Yankees?
Yeah. They're 9.5 back, and they're 5.5 behind the Orioles.
I think they can. I just think we live in weird times where teams don't give a shit if they win the division or not.
Well, especially, I mean, the Yankees have proven
Yeah.
that year after year.
I don't think that they care enough. I think as long as they make the playoffs, they're happy.
Yeah. So with that said, they're playing a play-in, a best of 3. Do you still think that they have the best chance of getting to the CS?
Yeah.
All right.
If you have to
Cool.
play the best of 3 and you're throwing Cole and Rodon, I mean, come on.
The more I think about the Orioles, the more I think they've got play-in loss written all over them. They just seem like that kind of franchise. The Central is going to get bombed by
Whoever plays them is going to kick their ass.
This is the dream. This is what I'll say about the Yankees. I'm much less optimistic than you are, obviously. I don't think on paper the Yankees are an ALCS team, and I don't think that offense is good enough to make a World Series, or probably not good enough to win the ALCS. And I'm not even convinced Aaron Judge is going to come back healthy. So all of that out, let's all throw that aside. Rodon, I do believe at this point, is going to pitch and stay healthy the rest of the year. He should be here around 4th of July. And I do think Nestor, I don't know what's going on with him. I do think he'll come back at some point and be more effective than he was. So to your point, we're already looking at Cole, Rodon, Severino, and Nestor in a playoff rotation.
That's nasty.
That's really good. I don't actually feel the need to acquire a starter at the deadline for the first time in years, because Schmidt has turned his season around, and Brito, Vasquez, and Louis Gill, by the way, coming back. Those are guys who can fill in, and Herman.
And Herman, who's been very good.
Yeah, so they've got 8 starters of depth, and that's not including Montez, who's not guaranteed to be out for the year either.
Yeah, forget about him.
So we've got 8 or 9 options. I don't actually want the Yankees to go after a starter, and if their starters are healthy, the playoffs.
Need offense. They need high contact guys. They need a lefty power bat.
Yeah, so I would trust them in a best of 3 to win that series, and they'd be playing the AL Central more than likely, because I don't think they're going to catch the Orioles, and I think that next wild card is going to come out of the West, either the Astros or Rangers, no matter how you divide it. So to me, the last spot in the AL comes down to the Yankees, Jays, and Angels. 2 of them aren't going to make the playoffs. Do you agree with that? Do you think the Orioles and one of the West teams is guaranteed a wild card?
I don't think the Orioles make it.
Wow. You are really low. What about the Orioles makes you so?
I don't think that they're as good as they're playing.
But they were great the second half of last year.
They were.
They're even better.
It's a cute story, but
well, let me ask you this: when do they stop becoming a cute story and start becoming a team that's winning a lot of games?
It's not going to happen. It's not.
Well, what do they? Because they have a big farm system still.
They do.
Do
now, ask me if I think the Orioles will be a very dangerous ball club in 2 years. Yeah.
Wow. To me, they don't have the starting pitching, but they have a really scary bullpen.
Yep.
And the offense is, I think, a really well-built playoff offense. I don't think it's the best offense, but I think it's a really good playoff type of offense. Those guys grind at bats. They make a lot of contact from what I see. And they've got some guys who can get hot. I don't think they have like
do you know who you just described? The Cleveland
Guardians.
You described the Cleveland Guardians.
Well, that's why I think the Guardians will win the Central. The Guardians' offense has made no sense to me this year. I didn't think it'd be a juggernaut, but to have 302 runs in 77 games is just doesn't make sense.
They're not built on offense. They're just
But
slap
they,
happy guys.
I know, but they got better in the offseason, I thought, on offense, and they're even worse somehow. So, I mean, I do. Marlins up 10-1, by the way.
Oh, they shit.
That rules. So anyway, I think the Orioles are gonna make the playoffs for sure. I don't know if they're gonna be the top wild card, but to me, it's the Yankees, Jays, and Angels for that last spot. And I will say I don't think the Angels are gonna make the playoffs. So to me, the Jays and Yankees are fighting for that last playoff spot. And the Jays have a lot more money that they can use at the deadline. I don't know what's going on with Alek Manoah getting bombed by teenagers in
Bro.
low A,
His season's getting worse.
you want to talk about a Stroman match? It's the Jays.
Yeah.
Jays are a great match to get Stroman.
Imagine Stroman going back to Tampa Bay.
Yeah. I honestly don't. To me, just by default, the Dodgers would trade for Ohtani and then also lock him up.
Yeah.
Like that to me is something I could see them doing.
And I mean, LA is kind of in it now, so it's hard, but they'd be fools not to trade Ohtani.
Yeah, like I don't actually see a lot of trade partners for him.
I thought it was that report that came out that the Yankees gave a substantial offer for Ohtani last year. I thought was interesting.
Who did?
The Yankees.
Oh, well, it obviously didn't work. So,
I think they're afraid. I think they're afraid of the off the field stuff, right? Because Ohtani brings in big money. Forget about he brings in big money.
The problem with Ohtani in general is it's a terrible decision for the Yankees organization. He would fix two problems, which is great, especially with Severino and a walk here, but at what expense? Because you're going to lose Volpe, Dominguez, Peraza, and probably another top prospect as a rental, and then you have to turn around and pay him $500 million, and they've already got four guys.
And he's going to get Tommy John.
And then he's going to get hurt. Yeah, never play again. So that's just a bad comment. And that's all with the consideration he would actually play in New York, which I'm not convinced of that either. So Yankees are a bad matchup for him.
Yeah,
like he's a great matchup for any team, but
I would love him on the team, but what it takes to get him isn't worth it.
It doesn't make sense. This is why it wouldn't shock me if the Yankees didn't make the playoffs, only because they don't have a lot to work with at the deadline.
They're making the playoffs.
Like, yes, Judge can come back, and maybe Bader stays healthy the rest of the year. Maybe Rizzo breaks out of his slump. Maybe Stanton is better than a 180 hitter. Maybe they finally get rid of Donaldson and call up their second best prospect from last year who hit 300 in the majors.
Please don't start there because you know my feelings on that.
Maybe they do any of those things, Henry, or maybe they do a combination of those things.
It's going to piss me off because they're going to call up Peraza, who is the better shortstop, not by a little bit, but by a lot.
And he's going to play third.
And he's not going to play shortstop, and it's going to piss me off.
They would. The Yankees work. Brian Cashman specifically works solely on ego, which is so bizarre. They're not going to demote Volpe because it's going to look bad.
Yep.
He's going to play shortstop because it's marketable. They are keeping Donaldson because they don't want to cut with the money, and they think even scouts at this point are like, he has no bat speed. He's done. He's washed up.
Just get rid of him. There's no value in keeping him. He's gone at the end of the year. Just eat the fucking money. It's not like you're eating years and years. Eat the money.
So they're going to end up putting Peraza probably at third, because even if you bench DJL, even if you trade Glaber, like that's the only way you'd see Peraza at second. I think they'll put him at third.
Yeah.
So that, they've got Peraza and maybe Florial as internal options, but they don't have a lot of money to trade, like to acquire guys, and they don't have any big prospects they can part with. Like maybe Everson Pereira is having a nice season at 22 and he's healthy. I don't think they trade Wells. I don't think they trade Peraza. I don't think they trade Dominguez.
Maybe a full
So,
balls right now.
so you're looking at Will Warren, like Randy Vasquez. They need those guys because Severino, Montez are heading into free agency. I feel like there's a third one there I'm forgetting.
Yeah, no, I think Austin Wells is probably as much as an untouchable prospect right now.
Yeah.
He's hitting,
Hernandez
he's
and Wells are the
left-handed,
top two.
he's left-handed, he's hitting, and he's actually getting better defensively as a catcher.
Right. So they can't trade their top prospects. They don't have the money to acquire a bad contract or even to acquire a lot of options.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the bullpen, I have no worries about. Ian Hamilton's back. Trevino and Lozano, we don't even know if they're coming back and don't even need them, quite frankly, but it would be great to have them. And then they've got all those arms I listed as starting rotation depth that can maybe join the bullpen, like Schmidt would be a good example.
Yep.
The pitching staff, I do not have worries about. It is solely the offense, and I don't think there's enough to fix it. But the Blue Jays are also a topic of the night has been weird. The Blue Jays are weird. I don't know why they're so okay. They're not good. I don't know why.
I mean, they like to party and dance and do all the wonderful things like if they're actually a really good team.
I'm sticking with the theory they're immature. I know
Yeah.
it's totally
Oh
anecdotal.
no, they are. They run that clubhouse.
Yeah. They are 11th in runs, which is just okay. I mean, the Yankees are much worse, but they don't have the juggernaut offense again. Second year in a row, they just don't have a juggernaut offense and should, because that core is ridiculous. But their ERA is 13th. So I mean, they're not a bad, they're just okay across the board. It's so weird.
Yeah,
Yankees ERA, by the way, as a team is 9th, which is worse than I would think. Oh, sorry, that's June. Hold on. Let me amend both. The Yankees have the third best ERA in baseball in general, and the Blue Jays are 12th. So for as big of an advantage the Blue Jays have offensively, the Yankees have pitching wise now.
I was about to say the Yankees is actually really good pitching.
But my point still stands for me that the Blue Jays have more options at the deadline. And they've got a couple of arms that are like big time arms in that farm system. So that's where I see it. I think the Angels will fall off, but I think the Jays and Yankees are going to be in a dogfight for the last playoff spot. And I'm not comfortable.
Not me.
But I will say whoever wins that last playoff spot has a bye week into the DS because they're playing the Central.
Yep.
And then when they reach the DS,
should be interesting.
They're going to play the Rays, who, as we just established, I'm not like that afraid of.
See, the fun part of that is that there's things that happen that you can't dictate because of, the previous 2 or 3 games. So, yeah, you're playing the Rays, but what are you playing the Rays? Did they have to spend all their pitching? Did their bullpen get taxed? Did their ace have to go 2 of the 5 games? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So those are the fun parts, is Garrett Cole coming off of pitching 2 games already? Those are all the little intricacies, because when you think playoff matchups, you think, your standard 1, 2, 3 guys, but that's not how it happens. If you don't win your division, which is why I don't understand why people don't take their division serious, you can't set your team up.
Yeah. If you don't like when I do this, but if you think this thought through, you're looking at, I'm guessing Garrett Cole pitching game 2, right? Because of the way that the play in 3 would go.
Yeah.
And then you're probably looking at like a Nestor Cortez pitching game 1. But then you're looking at like a Rodon and Severino after that in some order. So
I think it depends on who pitches game 2, because whoever pitches game 2, is going to get 2 starts as well as whoever pitches game 1.
Right. So the Yankees really wouldn't be that disadvantaged.
Right.
Even if the Rays set their rotation, because the Rays rotation, McClanahan lasts now if he's healthy. But then you're looking at like Zach Eflin, Taj Bradley, Yanni Chirinos,
or even a bullpen game, because that's
or a bullpen game. So the Yankees are gonna have a rotation in that hypothetical. I mean, they're gonna have a rotational advantage in that hypothetical, and the Rays are gonna have the managing. This is the other thing with the Yankees. They will blow one of those games. from poor management. It's happened every single series I can think of since Boone's been here. Let's play that game. It's a fun game to play. 2018 ALDS. He leaves CC in too long. And they lose that game. Game 4. That was the decider.
I want to play this game. I hate you.
2019 ALCS. He takes Tanaka out at 68 pitches in 6 innings. The bullpen then gets overworked from a terrible game 2 and loses game 3 as well.
Wasn't there a call he didn't challenge that was like egregious? Or was that 2020?
That was 2017 Girardi with Lindor.
No, that I remember. I remember that one.
Okay.
When we play Cleveland.
There might have been.
I'm almost sure Boone didn't challenge something that was like obvious.
2020 was when he went to the opener and didn't tell them they were opening.
Yep.
Now 2021, I guess, is the one exception because we didn't have a playoff series. We only had the game, Garrett Cole pitching on one leg. Red Sox were a much better team. Whatever, fine. That team wasn't very good anyway. And then last year, he's not going to. Well, the Guardians were the better example. He blew that game 3. He went to Clark Schmidt twice with the game on the line and arrested bullpen. And then you get to the ALCS, which was a total disaster, but he, wasn't great there either. So
classed in every facet of the game in the ALCS.
Yeah. So the Yankees are going to lose one game to the Rays if they played them in an ALDS because of Aaron Boone. But they've got game 3 and probably game 4, depending on how that rotation falls, advantages pitching wise.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't necessarily take McClanahan and Glasnow over Cole and whatever number 2 you want to say the Yankees have.
If it's Cole and Rodon, I don't.
Right. And Cole, historically in the playoffs, owns the Rays for whatever reason.
I think McClanahan is the best of the bunch, right? And I mean, you can argue Cole, but I think McClanahan is the best of the bunch. And then it's
Cole, Rodon. And then you like Severino and Glasnow.
Sevy's weird, man. Sevy can have like a fucking complete game shutout or just get bombed. Like,
yeah. So
I think I'm taking Nestor over Glasnow. I'm sorry.
Wow. Not Nestor. I got to see what Nestor comes back.
I would.
He's not a guy I like in the playoffs because his kind of like
his stuff doesn't. He doesn't have blowaway stuff, and it doesn't make sense that he can do what he does. That's why.
He's like Brew and Mario Tennis. Like he's a deceptive guy. That's not a dude I'm playing in a tennis match. I'm going to battle.
I get it, but it works. It works.
But yeah, so that's what's intriguing to me about the AL is that right now the Rays and Rangers are the class of the AL. We don't really trust either of them.
No.
The Astros are the favorites in my mind, and they're having a really poor start by their standards.
I think the real discussion is if the Braves don't win a title, is it a disappointment? And I would say yes.
The one thing I'll say about the Braves, if Pedro were here, I know he'd bring it up too. Their rotation has had a lot of injuries.
I get it.
It's not like a juggernaut all-time great rotation going on over there. But to your other point, that offense is a machine. It's really good.
Yeah.
And they do have, I'm looking at the depth chart just to remind myself, I don't know when Fried's coming back or if. Kyle Wright, they're both on the 60-day IL. Charlie Morton's 100 years old, so I put him in the Verlander Scherzer category. I don't know what he's going to have by October. Strider's a stud. You never know with a young kid making playoff game starts. Elder's been fantastic, but he's never pitched in the playoffs. The bullpen's been good. But then the offense is just, Sean Murphy, elite. Matt Olson, elite. Ozzie Albies, elite. Yeah. Austin Riley, elite. Shortstop, all right, Arcia is not elite. But then your outfield is Michael Harris, Ronald Acuna, and Eddie Rosario.
Is Grissom ever getting called up?
I asked my friend who's a Braves fan about that yesterday, and I guess the organization really hates his defense.
He's bad, but I guess they're just like, no, figure your shit out, and we're just gonna keep winning games here.
I think it's that, yeah, the A, they can afford not to call him up. B, I think they've decided he's not a shortstop, and that's really the only offensive hole you can plug him
Which
into.
we said that before the season started. The right move was to transition him to second base.
Yeah, but then Albies is there, and he's locked up. So,
You can move Albies.
but where? Like,
Albies
right,
is an athlete.
you can't. No, I have no doubt his ability. It's just like where, like everywhere else is so good. Even Ozuna, who was awful, has turned it on and is starting to hit home runs now and whatnot. So I don't know. It's
It's
like they
funny,
have too
Philippe.
much talent.
When the Marlins traded their amazing ass outfield, Felipe and I had this back and forth. He liked Yelich's bat more, and I liked Osuna's bat. And I think one year Osuna was the better guy, and then Yelich went off and had that tear, and then Osuna was good again, and now they just both suck.
Yeah.
And then you
I
throw in Stanton, all
probably,
three of them suck.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's crazy how that worked out.
So Derek Jeter was
I
right
would
after
say
all.
yes. Yes, it's disappointing. I don't think it would be shocking.
I
If the
think
96 Braves can lose, this team can certainly escape.
I
Is
think the
certainly
Braves are in Yankees territory. You either win the World Series or it's a disappointment.
the team's built to win a World
Mhm.
Series. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you have to, especially you won the World Series 2 years ago. It's not like this is some up and coming team. You've been a World Series contender now for 3 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, yes, it would be disappointing. I kind of first interpreted that question like, does anyone else have a chance of winning the World Series? I would
No,
just say
no, of
yes,
course.
but it's certainly like they're the favorites right now, and I don't think you can debate that.
Like, I think if you tell me the Yankees made it to the ALCS and lost again, I mean, that's what I'm expected. If you tell
Right.
me the Astros made it to the World Series and lost, I get it. You can put teams there and say they lost in the ALCS, NLCS, or World Series, and I'm like, okay, the Braves, if they get there and they don't win, it's a failure to me.
Yeah, no, I can see that. Yeah, they're built to win the World Series this year. I think that. By the way, the Yankees' next 6 games, Oakland and St. Louis.
I'm not staying up for that shit.
This is where the rubber meets the road for me, and I've been very down, as everyone in baseball life knows, about the Yankees. I don't think they're a good team. I think they're going to Yankee their way into a plus 500 record, but you want to tell me this team wins 85, 86 games, I'd believe you. And I'm tired. I'm tired at this point. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying I'm tired of hearing about if this guy comes back healthy and if this guy starts hitting and if this other guy comes back. I'm over it. It's been
frustrating.
3
Yeah.
years. Yeah. Like we're not talking about 1 year of bad luck or two. Even 2019, when they won 100 plus games, they had a ton of injuries that year. They were winning in spite of their health.
Yeah.
So basically, ever since Boone's tenure, this team has been nonstop injured, and I'm tired of it. I'm not expecting it because it doesn't work out that way. Like we got healthy last year, and then DJ Allen King got hurt, and we're out for the year and missed the playoffs.
You want to hear something funny?
Marinaccio missed the ALCS.
You want to hear something funny?
Yeah,
In the next 6 games, the Yankees are playing 3 former Yankees.
like pitching wise,
Yeah.
JP Sears, Jordan Montgomery, and oh, what's his face?
James
other-
Carillion.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
A's basically their entire rotation is former Yankees,
Oh,
so it's
yeah.
not hard to guess that. But if the Yankees don't win 5 games of these next 6, my opinion has not changed.
I was gonna say they should probably win all 6.
You got to go 5-1 or better. Because here's the thing,
And then
if
you get 4. You
win-
get 4 in Baltimore, by the way.
Yeah, that's a big series. Yankees have to start building momentum.
Yeah.
And they have to prove they can beat the 2 of the worst teams in baseball
Then you
without
get 3 with the Cubs. Sorry, you get 3 with the Cubs after that.
I remember looking at this in the beginning of the year. This is the only light part of the entire schedule for the Yankees. Only part of the entire year where I could say they've got like 2 to 3 weeks of just not good teams.
Oh, wow, yeah, because then we go to Colorado,
Mm-hmm.
Angels,
Yeah.
Kansas City, 2 with the
Yeah.
Mets, so that means we'll split.
Yeah, and I didn't anticipate that the Mets would be bad, but yeah,
And then from there, you have Baltimore, Tampa Bay, and Houston.
that's when it gets hard again.
Yep. Actually,
So
let me rephrase: Baltimore, Tampa Bay, Houston, White Sox, Marlins, Braves, Boston.
which who knows? Those 4 are total toss-ups to me.
It's not going to be easy.
No, so they have like that's the point I'm getting at. They have to take advantage of this part of the schedule without Aaron Judge and win consistently and build a lead because it gets hard. Now, I don't know when Judge is coming back, but they do have the All-Star break and they do have about, 15 or 20 games here against teams that aren't that good.
They can get
And this
that.
is the season to me. They've got to build up a lead. And then you have to hope Judge comes back. Rodon should be back by then, so the rotation should be stellar and continue to do well.
They can get real fat in this stretch.
Bader's back. Yeah. So right. So this to me is it. If they go on a run here, and it starts with these first 6 games, so they're the easiest. If they go on a run here, you can start to sway me into more of your line of thinking, which is like, if they make the playoffs, what's stopping them from the ALCS? Because I could buy into that.
I'm telling you, that's the way it's going to go.
For now, I'm just not there. The team is just too inconsistent.
We're going to get, so instead of that big splash trade that everyone's always looking for, we're going to get that Brian Cashman trade that
look, we haven't seen
that
it.
we were like, why? Who the fuck is this guy?
And then he
Why did we trade
performs.
for this? And he outperforms everyone's expectation. We do it every year.
We didn't do it last year though. Or the year before that, really.
No,
Like
the year
Rizzo
before that
did
is when
not
we
fit
got
that bill.
Wandy and we got Holmes.
All right, fine, but I am talking hitters. Brian Cashman
No.
has not brought an unexpected hitter who performed here in like
Matt
5 years.
Matt Carpenter.
He wasn't a deadline deal though. He was a
No,
free agent.
yeah, he was a fucking.
Yeah, look, Billy McKinney and Jake Bowers are performing, so we still get that. Mike Talkman was performing before that. I mean, we still get those guys, but I'm talking.
Remember the fights I would have with Yankee fans about Mike Talkman? Jesus.
Yes. Back in the majors, baby.
Oh my God.
My point is, it's a circular thinking, right? Like they need a hitter or 2 at the deadline.
Preferably.
The pitching, I don't really care about. I already like our pitching as it gets healthy. They need a hitter or 2 at the deadline, and Cashman has not brought over productive hitters, even with more assets.
We're gonna go.
Then it leaves internally what he has, and this idiot does not want to use his own options. I don't know what it takes for him to trust his own farm system, which he won't trade pieces for.
No, I get it. I don't agree with any of that.
Yeah, so that's my problem. It solely comes down to the Yankees offense, and for 2 of these 3 months, Henry, they have scored under 4 runs a game on average. 2 of the 3 months, that's worst in baseball bad. 23rd worst offense in April, 30th worst offense in June.
Yeah, worst offense in June. I had mentioned that when you disappeared on us.
Yeah, so yes, Aaron Judge, if you don't get Aaron Judge back, you have no chance. But even if you do get Aaron Judge back, it's not a good playoff offense. It still needs 2 bats probably. Because the other problem is that like the Bowers and McKinneys of the world disappear as they get healthier. So
I mean, I'm still. You're gonna think I'm crazy, but you know what happens in October. Stanton, Stanton puts on the uniform, and Stanton just becomes a whole. And it's so fucking mental. It's so
Judge doesn't. That's my problem.
Yeah,
like
Judge
yes,
doesn't.
If one of those 2 guys hits, that's fine with me.
Yeah.
Rizzo depends if he's healthy. I trust him in big spots, but only if he's healthy, and we kind of never know at this point.
We don't know what DJ LeMahieu is anymore.
He's another. I mean, last year it was only being down DJ really.
Yeah.
And they didn't hit. This year, you don't know if Judge is healthy. You don't know if Stanton's going to hit, Rizzo's going to hit, or DJ's going to hit.
Yep.
I can't buy in. They have to win consistently against bad teams right now, and then they need Judge back and they have to start winning against good teams.
Yeah, this is their stretch to do it.
It is. They've got, this is it. I mean, this is it. I will, and thankfully, it leads into the trade deadline.
Yeah.
I don't know that the Yankees will necessarily be sellers by the trade deadline, even if they go 500 between now and the end of next month. I don't think they'll be sellers.
I think we have a clog at like Rule 5 guys, so I wouldn't be surprised to see those kind of guys moved.
Those kinds of trades, yeah.
Yeah.
But at least they'll have a really firm idea as to what they are, I think, by the end of next month.
Yeah.
They won't be in limbo. So it's a weird season. I don't feel any, like, I don't feel, besides the Braves, who I'm like, all right, well, in the beginning of the year, I didn't know if Acuna was going to stay healthy. I didn't know, if the Braves were going to pull away from the Mets at this point. Now we know everything we need to know about the Braves.
Yeah.
I can firmly say that the Rays are a playoff team. And that's really it. I don't feel any better about having any answers to anything.
I tell you, the last 2 weeks of the season should be fun.
Schedule wise, or you're just saying you think it'll be that close?
I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be close. I think those teams that don't normally have pressure on them is going to feel the pressure, and you want to see how they perform.
Yeah.
We're going to get our Randy Arozarena type stars that just, rise to the occasion. And I love to see it.
Yeah. By the way, real quick before we sign off, just going through the scores tonight. Some of these crack me up. So Kevin Gausman for the Jays, 6 innings, 1 run, 12 strikeouts. Jays down 3-0 in the ninth. Cardinals with Valdez starting for the Astros lead them 4-2 in the 8th.
I'll take it.
The Phillies are all over the Cubs. The Cubs, again, this is the other, they're just such a classic. We're going to compete and sometimes dominate bad teams, but man, I don't trust them against good or hot teams. Diamondbacks 3-0 over the Rays in the first. Corbin Carroll 3-run home run off of Taj Bradley. That's not surprising. And the Reds, delayed with the Orioles, lead them 2-1. Your series, Matt McClain, the Matt McClain show, RBI double and a home run, 2-1 Reds.
What?
So
you want to know where this is completely off topic, because this is what I do. You know what was fun to me? I think it was Saturday night. Was it Sunday? Saturday or Sunday?
Yeah.
The Rockies just absolutely got the shit beat out of them by the Angels.
Yes.
25 runs on 28 hits.
Yep.
And this is baseball, and still won the series.
Yeah, no, I know.
I saw a graphic. It was like they got outscored like a shitload of runs and still win the series. That's the beauty of baseball.
Well, you know what also happened? Well, first of all, the Angels led like 16-0 in the fourth, which was crazy. The same thing happened in the College World Series, which, congratulations, LSU Tigers. They just won the College World Series yesterday. LSU won in like 11 innings against the Gators in game 1 by a run. The Gators then beat them like 22-4 in game 2. And then LSU beat the Gators like 18-4 in game 3. So the Gators outscored them, but LSU won the series, and they both had double-digit victories.
You got to love this game. It's beautiful.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we'll have to pick a time in July.
Yeah.
Make this happen. But
probably toward the end, because I'm on vacation. And I think you're on vacation in July, right?
Yes, the entire second half, pretty much. So, well, actually, I'll tell you this sneak peek. Wednesday, July 19th. I might be able to make work if you're free.
That might work.
Okay, well, we'll look towards July 19th.
I think I get back a couple of days before that, so that works.
Okay, yeah. If it's not that, it would be probably the first week of August.
And if cruise ships have strong Wi-Fi, I would do it from the cruise, because I'm just that kind of fucking guy. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah. A true warrior.
I've jumped in a pool for you motherfuckers before.
That's right. Yeah. So thank you everyone for joining. We will see you next month. This has been Dong City. Everyone, have a great night.
Dong City, bitches.